Hello, today we're going to be looking at solving any linear equation. And we're going to start with solving some equations mentally. So we're just thinking about what the x means, and we're just thinking about what I would need to turn one expression into the other. So I'm going to use a post-it note to kind of level out what's happening here now, or help us focus in on it. So first I'm starting with 5 minus x equals 8. Well, how am I going to subtract something and get a larger value? Must be subtracting a negative, because when I subtract a negative, my value increases. So 5 minus what would equal 8? And that would be negative 3. And again, we're doing these mentally, so we're really thinking through what does that x mean? And that's kind of against what we've done, but our purpose here is to really consider what the x means and what it would mean to do these operations. So, moving on to the next question. Negative 1 is equal to something minus 2. So what number could I have and take 2 away from it and get negative 1? What about 1? 1 minus 2 is negative 1. Now, this would be a good opportunity if you're having trouble with this, maybe to use a number line to help you see things. Okay, negative 3 times something is going to give me 9. Well, I know x is going to be negative because a negative times a negative would give me a positive. And what number times 3 is 9? That's 3. Okay, and then here, negative 5 times something is negative 10. So a negative times a positive would give me a negative. And 5 times 2 is 10. So those were just to work through mentally. Now, if we're in person during this lesson, then we could actually work through this activity. But if not, that's okay. You can still do this. Now, this is going to be just on the next page, okay? I'll put it on the next page so you'll know where to look for it. And here we have some equations. So if you get to do this in person, then you'll actually cut these up and you'll have 4 cards, and then we can choose who will take the first turn, and you work one step out, then you pass it to your partner, and you're working these out. And then the last step is the check step. So I guess what I will ask you to do is to go ahead and pause this and get an answer for number 1 and put it in, and then I will work through number 1. So just pause it, your question should come up, and then I'll work through it, and we'll do that same process for each one. Alright, so for the first one, I need all of my variables on one side of the equation and all of my constants, which are just numbers, on the other side. And we've talked about this before. I prefer to put my variables on the left side if possible. It's not necessary, that's just my personal preference. So 4x minus 4x is 0. So I've effectively moved this variable term to the other side of the equation by doing the inverse or opposite. Now to move my constants, do the opposite or inverse. This is 0. So now I have negative 10x equals 5. Divide each side by negative 10. That's 1. So x is equal to negative 1/2. Then to do the check step, you would substitute negative 1/2 in place of each of the x's and see if you get the same thing. So I'm going to pause this and do that, and then I'll just show you my result. So I've got a new paper that's my check step, just to keep it organized, but you could have done this on scrap paper as well. So for every x that I had, I substituted my answer of negative 1/2 in, and then I just worked each of these out. And since I had the same result at the end. That proves that the correct result here is negative 1/2, or the correct value for x is negative 1/2. So then we'll move on to number 2. So there's a couple of ways that I can approach this. I think what I want to do here, instead of dividing by 1/2, I think I just want to multiply by 2. And I'm going to do that on each side. So 2 times 1/2, that is eliminated. And then 7x minus 2 equals 12x minus 20. Okay, at this point, I would need to get my variables on one side and my constants on the other. So let's subtract 12x from each side. This is eliminated, and now we have negative 5x minus 6 equals negative 20. Now I will add 6 to each side, and that's going to eliminate the constant on this side of the equation. Now I'm going to divide each side by negative 5. So my answer will be positive, because a negative divided by a negative is a positive. And I get 14 over 5, which is 2 with 4 left over out of 5. And then I'm going to do the check step like I did before. So I will pause this, and I'm going to check it, and then I'll just show my work. And at that point you can pause it if you want to. So when these are worked out, we see each of the expressions equals 6.8 when we substitute our value of 14/5, which was our answer. So when we substitute that value in, we do end up getting the same on each side. So therefore, this 14/5 is the correct solution for this equation. We'll do number 3. So pause the video, work it out, answer the question, and then I'll walk you through it. So first thing I want to do is get all the variables to one side and all the constants to the other. So this time I think I'll mix it up and put my variables on the right side and my constants on the left, just to prove that you can do it that way, because I usually prefer the other way. So then I'll subtract 13 from each side. Eliminated. Negative 6 equals 1/2 x. Okay, and I'm going to divide by 1/2, which is actually multiplying by 2. So negative 12 equals x. And then I will substitute my negative 12 in place of the variable for each of the expressions and see if I get the same result. You can see that for the x values, I've substituted my solution in, and then numerically that worked out to give me the same result, which proves that my answer is a solution to this equation. Last one. I believe I'll substitute first here. 2x plus 14 equals negative 4x plus 14. So I'm going to subtract 2x. I'm going to move the variables to the right side again. Alright, and I get 14 equals negative 6x plus 14. I'm going to move this constant to the other side. Okay, so that gives me 0 equals negative 6x. Divide by negative 6, and I end up with 0 equals x. So we'll plug that in and see if that's actually the result. Pause that while I do this part. And I ended up with the same numerical value when I substituted my solution of 0 in place of the variable x, which proves my answer is correct. So, moving on. That was this part. So now, I have a word problem here about Tyler. Tyler says he invented a number puzzle. He asked Claire to pick a number, then asked her to do the following. So she picked a number, and she tripled the number and subtracted 7, doubled the result, subtracted 22, and then divided by 6. Wow. Okay, Claire says she now has -3. Tyler says her original answer must have been a 3. How did Tyler know that? Explain or show your reasoning and be prepared to show your solution. So this is quite a lofty problem. Let's just see if this works out to be 3. So I could work it out step by step, or I could just check it because I have a potential answer here. So let's check it. 3 times 3 minus 7 divided by 6, and then -3. So let's see if what this works out to be. So that would be 2 times 9 minus 7 minus 22 divided by 6. So, I'm afraid I'm going to run out of room. I'll go to the left if I do. 2 times 2 minus 22 divided by 6. So 2 times 2 is 4 minus 22 divided by 6. 4 minus 22 is -18 divided by 6 is -3. So, -3 and -3. It looks like that is the answer. I guess we could start with 3 here, and we start with 3, we triple the number, subtract 7, double the result, subtract 22, divide by 6, and we get -3. So we could do it that way as well. Alright, let's see what the next page is. Lesson summary. So you can read over this, maybe highlight some important things you find. Then we'll start our problem set.